Hi, everyone. Welcome back to All Kinds of Advice podcast. For today's episode, we are going to be talking about Chris Brown and the whole controversy with Ruffles and the fact that, the NBA had, invited Chris Brown to play in the celebrity basketball game for, the All-Star weekend. And, pretty much last minute, they told him that he could no longer play in the game because one of the sponsors, was not comfortable or did not want him to play in the game. We're going to talk about this in particular for today's episode. We're going to talk about, Chris Brown's response as well. So stay tuned. It's going to be spicy. But before I go into it, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to this channel. Let's keep it growing and flowing. So just to give a bit of, a background story, as I had mentioned, Chris Brown initially was supposed to play at the All-Star game for this year. We know that it's All-Star weekend that is being taken place. So I'm going to read you guys his statement. He mentioned in his statement that he posted online, he said, I was asked by the NBA to play in the All-Star game this year, only for them to call later and say they couldn't do it because of their sponsors like Ruffles. At this point, I'm sick of people bothering me and I'm tired of living in the effing past. And then he mentioned, I posted the email so y'all could see. The NBA was still trying to get me to come and sit courtside. And he pretty much said it's not happening. And he feels disrespected. In my personal opinion, I feel like, Chris Brown, made, some mistakes along the way. He had the issue of like, that whole domestic issue with Rihanna, which has, had a detrimental impact and a huge or immense impact on his image. We see time and time again, like, what he did is not being forgiven. Like he's losing out on a lot of like, opportunities. And even like, I remember one time, I don't remember what particular events where he had done rehearsals with, I think it was Sierra at the time, and then last minute that particular events I guess company pulled out last minute. And I'm just like, oh my goodness, like a time and time again they're doing this to Chris Brown. And I understand his frustration. Like no one's saying that someone should hit someone, or someone should continue to assault people. But I feel like at one point he's trying his best. Chris Brown is like he's like really good with music. People love his music and that sort of thing. I feel like, the public, can move on from this. But, everyone has their opinion on it in some sense. But I get his frustration. Like it's time and time again. I feel like, like I get what he's saying. Like, why come and ask him if last minute you're gonna pull out because of a sponsor? You know what I'm saying? And he pretty much mentioned, in his post, he said Ruffles, but I feel like it wasn't only Ruffles, perhaps. And I'm saying this all allegedly because I don't know, who are the sponsors, but he said because of sponsors, and sponsors means more than one. So I don't think it's just Ruffles that may not have been comfortable with Chris Brown, participating in the NBA, All-Star celebrity game. I feel like it was other sponsors as well. And maybe he did not mention it, or maybe the NBA told him that it was like Ruffles, and they didn't mention the other sponsors that were not comfortable with it. But it's like, come on, like you're telling him to do this, and then after last minute, you're telling him, oh, well, you know what? To make you feel better, you can come courtside, and, watch the game. Like, how would he feel? I wouldn't have gone too. I would not have gone too. And I'm not excusing what he did in the past. Of course, he shouldn't have hit Rihanna. But I feel at this point, she has forgiven him. They have moved on. I feel like we should show him some grace at this point. It's like, oh my goodness, like when is this going to end for him? And I feel like, he should stand up and speak for himself. It's a lot of people online were saying that they were also agreeing. They were also saying like, enough is enough. Like, when is this going to stop? Like, Rihanna has forgiven him. We have moved on from this. Obviously, people have not moved on from the fact that that perception that people shouldn't be abused. But it's like, I feel like, it's time like for people to sort of let it go. You know what I'm saying? And it's just unfortunate. And I feel like him standing up for himself, that's the best thing that he can do. Because if he's not going to stand up for himself, who's going to stand up for him? Like, this is not acceptable time and time again that they're doing this to him. I feel like people are living in the past, and it's like, get over it. Like, finish with this now. You know what I'm saying? But he was clearly upset, and he was like, why are they coming and bothering me? Why are they coming and asking me to do things? And I feel like going forward, a lot of companies um are going to get it from Chris Brown, in the sense that when they reach out to him to ask him to do events or participate in any particular thing, I feel like he's going to sort of take it with a grain of salt. And I feel like he's going to turn down a lot of things, or he's probably going to put, sort of like standards in place that, you know what, I want to make sure if I'm coming to this event that there's not going to be an issue with your sponsors. Find out from your sponsors that it's not going to be an issue, and then I will let you know whether I can make it or not. I feel like that's how he's going to approach it, because this is like embarrassing at this point. I remember I felt so bad for him when he had did the whole rehearsal, and then last minute they pulled out. I was like, this is outrageous behavior. And again, I want to stress that nobody should be assaulted. You know what I'm saying? But I don't feel like, people stay the same. People can, sort of go through counseling and try to deal with their anger. Maybe he has done that behind the scenes. He obviously wants to move past this. You know what I'm saying? But Lord, like, and then Ruffles comes out and they give a statement and they mention something along the lines of, Ruffles sponsored last night's NBA All-Star Celebrity Game. However, we did not have any involvement in nor visibility to any player decisions or celebrity invite discussions. And I felt like, I kind of was like, okay, what are they doing? Like, if I feel like a hit dog will holler, because it's like, if you felt like you didn't do that, why did you feel like you needed to come out and say something? And I did go on Ruffles like Instagram page, and I see that they have closed off their comments because people started boycotting their comment section. I read some of the comments in their in some of their posts, and people were saying like Team Breezy. People were giving like emojis like, oh, we don't like Ruffles anyways. I felt like they came out and put a statement because they feel like, doing this to Chris Brown perhaps or allegedly will tank their image. Maybe they feel like they will lose business, because it's all about monetary gains at the end of the day for a lot of these companies. And a lot of them sometimes perhaps don't really move with integrity or what is right. And I feel like we have created a culture where it's not forgiving, or cancel culture is at an all-time high now, where people can't make any mistake. Like, people have to be perfect, because if they're not perfect or pretend to be perfect, they're gonna lose sponsorships. They might lose like movie deals. They might impact their whole bread and butter, or their money, in a sense, right? And like, people are just bombarding the page so much. Like, every single post I watched, and I watched like more than 10 of the posts on Ruffles, and I see on there that people kept commenting. It was so bad to the point that they closed off all of their comments. I was like, God damn, like, Chris Brown, it has, people admire him, and a lot of people still support him despite, the mistakes that he has made in the past, right? But I feel like, in terms of Ruffles, work with Chris Brown, create an atmosphere or a space where people can be forgiven and people can be given, second chances, but at the same time, not denouncing that, assault and domestic violence is not right. But I feel like at this point, I feel like they are going to perhaps maybe lose money, because people took it really offensively, and also Chris Brown, due at the fact that he was removed from the celebrity game. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. I just feel like it's time to move on. I feel like, Rihanna has moved on. She has forgiven him. People are saying that maybe Rihanna should perhaps come out and say, like, I have moved on. I have forgiven him. Let's turn a new leaf. But she doesn't have to. She's not obligated to do so because people are obviously viewing her as the victim that was abused at that time. But let me know in the comment section below, what did you think about the whole, fiasco between Ruffles and this whole idea that they did not want, Chris Brown to be a part of, the celebrity game that they sponsored? Do you feel that it was right for people to boycott their page? Do you feel like they are in fact lying when they're saying that they were not involved in this? I just want to know, like, who is involved in removing Chris Brown? Like, what is the do? What is the issue? Like, who, like, somebody needs to come out and say it was them. Like, people do things and then they want to hide their hands and act like, oh, it wasn't them. You know what I'm saying? But I feel like, yes, he's made mistakes, but I have to commend Chris Brown for standing up for himself, because enough is enough at the end of the day. And a lot of people are also saying that, when, people of color do certain things that, others may see as offensive, or others may see as domestic violence, they are quickly canceled. They are removed from movie roles. But the same cannot be said for, like, people that are, of, like, I guess, people that are white, or of, different races. It's always, people of color that take the hit. What is your perception on that? That's what I was seeing, that, people projected and was saying online. But, that's my whole take on the situation. Let's get a fun debate going. We love Chris Brown, in the music atmosphere. He's really, really good. I'm never gonna give up on his music. I love his music. But yeah, let me know your comments. But that's my take for today, for All Kinds of Advice podcast. And I'll catch y'all on the next episode. Take care. Ciao.